Hey y'all, I'm so excited about this conversation tonight. This is going to be interesting. Having a little energy. You ever take those little energy drink thingies? This is Mio Energy. Hi Maisha, girl. This is gonna be good. The glow up is real. Hi, I really enjoy your page. Hi, Mama Tracy. You know, I was thinking, I want y'all to be thinking about this before I get into some other things. So we're talking about good girls tonight, being the good girl. I want you to think of a famous good girl. It could be from a television show, from a song. Get in your head a famous good girl. I already got mine in my head. So just want to tell you welcome. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm Queen Jones. I'm the content creator here at Wisdom for Well-Beings. And Wisdom for Well-Beings is becoming the go-to spot, y'all, for grown women, because we know there is a difference. Thank you for those hearts. Hey, coach, there is a difference between being adults and being grown. This is for grown women who are seeking wisdom for their wellness journey. The body wellness. Hello, toes on point. I love that. So happy for y'all to be here. Appreciate that, coach, and thank you for all your help. Lev Hunter, y'all, just so you guys know, is my content strategist coach. Now, he does not tell me what to say and what to do or anything like that, but he helps me to be better. So look him up, y'all. I'm telling you. So thing is, people come over here and they get wisdom. So what is wisdom? This is how I see wisdom. I see wisdom as clarity, insight, sound judgment. So you can come here and get wisdom for your well-being. And when I'm talking about well-being, I'm talking about your spiritual health, your mental health. By the way, this is Minority Mental Health Month. Your emotional health, your soul, your intellect, your imaginations, and of course your physical body too. So you're taking wisdom and you're adding that to that. Hey, Fearlessly Fit CPT. You add wisdom to that and then you got something. And y'all, there's a lot of things that affect our well-being very subtly sometimes, and we don't even know it. And I was talking to my friend Maisha. Let me go on and pin this actually so you know who I'm talking to and you can look her up later. So I was talking to my friend Maisha. This is one of those special opportunities where I get to share somebody from my real life with you. Hey, teacher mom. And she does these videos, and they're really like musings, if you will, where she is in her car or settling in for the evening, and she's reflecting on something she observed that day. And then you break that thing down to see how it's really impacting your life. And we've been thinking about this as it relates to this whole being a good girl. So at the beginning, I had asked you guys, tell me about a famous good girl. Like when I say good girl, who comes to mind? It might be somebody in your family that comes to mind, but is there a good girl that you think of when you hear that? Like, okay, you know that character is the good girl. Or even in a song, you're a good girl and you know it. Like whatever that song is. This is not advocating for Drake, but I do know that good girl is in the song. Hi, it's a mind game. Always love your participation. So you know who I thought about. Now you get it in your head too. I thought about Sandra Huxtable. The first Huxtable kid. Viola Davis. Okay. Yes. That's that. I've done everything right. Now, Viola is letting them know these days, right? She's letting them know this is over. We're done with this. I've done this. I've done this. I've done this. I've done this. But that's like part of that good girl syndrome too. You check off all the boxes. You do all the things, and it's supposed to turn out great. It does not always. Hi, Dirty Mirage. So I thought about Sandra Huxtable, y'all, because I remember watching that as a kid, and I knew that Sandra was good. She was a good kid. She did what she was supposed to do. She went to a good school and she went to Hillman, right? She graduated. She did all of the things. And you know what? Remember, hi Shabita. Remember when Sandra got married to Elvin and they decided, give me some hearts if you remember this. Because I knew as a kid, I wasn't a kid. I need to stop fronting. I was older, but still a child. I knew that, okay, that doesn't fit in. When Sandra decided, somebody remembers, they're showing hearts. You millennials may not know about this. I have a lot of millennial followers. My Gen Xers, I know y'all know. When Sandra decided that she and Elvin were going to quit their jobs and open a wilderness store, do you remember that? Girl, it was a problem at first because that's not what she was supposed to do. That didn't make sense. And good girls don't take risk like that. You follow an easy path. So you put in the comments, who is the good girl that you thought of? A good girl. And Maisha is getting ready to come on, and we're going to break this thing down and talk about how it's impacting our mental health, our relationships. Hi, Maisha.
Hey, how are you?
I'm feeling pretty good today. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good.
Okay. Great to see you. Loving the curly coils over here.
Girl, I'm trying to do all kinds of protection going on.
Well, it's looking good, girl. Now,
Thank
I'm
you.
asking Maisha to tell me about a famous good girl. So I don't see anything yet. Hi, Shawnee and Pumpkin Love Food. Have you thought of one like a good girl? Who were the good girls that we saw on television?
Oh my gosh, I agree with you about I was trying to think. I knew it was somebody with the Huxtables. I was trying
Uh-huh.
to remember which one. Was it Vanessa or was it now Vanessa? She ended up getting into some foolishness every now and then, but initially I
We
think
like
she
to have
was.
big fun.
Yes, the famous Big Fun episode. Um, but Vanessa to me is kind of, if I remember correctly, she's kind of half and half. Like in the
Mm-hmm.
way, but she's a certain type of good girl. She's the good girl who sneaks. Okay, she has the illusion of, whatever, and so it's you expect her to do what's right, but because
Mm-hmm.
she's sneaking doing her dirt, it comes out every now and then. So she's a certain type of good girl, but I think you picked a good one. I was literally trying to think of um uh someone who depicted kind of the good girl image, and I may be going way back. Like I could think of somebody like maybe Julia, Diane Carroll, y'all
Oh,
probably,
okay.
yeah. I barely
I
know
remember
myself, and I
them.
don't even know if that's right. That might just be an image in my mind. I didn't watch the show. I was
Uh-huh.
too. I wasn't even born, I don't think. But yeah. I'll have to ponder on that one. I'll have to
And
ponder
I'm
that
gonna
one.
read some of these because the thing is, the way you know it's a good girl is because when that person does something that's actually reasonable
Yeah.
or it's not outlandish, it's like, okay, why is she doing that? Someone
Mhm.
said, Sean and Sunshine said Aisha Curry.
Oh,
What are your thoughts about
yeah.
that?
Yeah. I would say that she is good Christian wife, doing yeah. I think that yeah, when she made a couple of her statements, I think on the Red Table Talk, they kind of blew them out of proportion, that she wanted attention from other men and all this kind of stuff or whatever. So I would say, yeah, Aisha Curry would be one.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And it's interesting now that Aisha is feeling more confident in her body and wants to show a little something with her
mhm,
husband, and
mhm,
people take issue with that.
mhm.
Someone mentioned Sanaa Lathan.
Mm, I wouldn't say she's a. I wouldn't necessarily say she's a traditional good girl. I would
Maybe
say,
her characters, is that what you mean, teacher mom? Because she does play some good girl-ish type characters.
yeah. When I guess it depends on what you think about when you think of good girl. I think somebody put Brandy down. I would agree with Brandy.
Mm. Yes, that's a
Brandy.
good
Okay,
one.
so we're talking about the Brandy and Monica's of the world. You were surprised when you found out that Brandy had gotten pregnant and faked the marriage and all that kind of stuff. You were,
It's
but
like,
yeah. So
mm-hmm,
I think Brandy is a perfect example of the good girl image.
mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Whitney
another one,
Houston then.
that's what I was about to say. Whitney Houston, previous to her marrying Bobby Brown, see, her marrying Bobby Brown busted her out. Because who
Mm-hmm.
you align yourself with really shows who you are inside, even if nobody else knows.
And the
So
thing
we was
is,
like,
everybody thought that Bobby was the problem. And then
yeah,
you realize, wait a second.
yes. She was the one who was off the chain and all that stuff. According to him, she never admitted, but according to him, but
Mm-hmm.
I believe him, I believe
Mm-hmm.
him, So yeah, Whitney definitely is one that, again, she is the certain type of good girl. She knew who she was, but her image was the good girl image.
They
And so
crafted
she
it.
had to keep her other stuff on the down low. She had to keep her,
Mm-hmm.
she had to kind of sneak with the real her,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. So
And it's so interesting how so many of these women were crafted to be the good girls and then had to try to uphold that. Janet as well. I just recently even thought about Mariah Carey when she first came
mhm.
out with Vision of
Yeah,
Love. It's like you
yeah,
knew. Even the DeBarges, you knew
yeah.
that they were supposed to be good, nice pop songs.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
like that's what good is. So when these people's humanity show up, okay,
Mhm.
now we have a problem.
Mhm.
So
Exactly.
yeah, you can't sneak and use crack, somebody said. But
Ah.
so here's the thing, Maisha. What are some, and you guys can say this in the comments too, what are some general, you just know it from your own life or from just society's expectations? What are some of the characteristics of good girls? Good girls like us.
Yes, like us. Good girls typically have the image of, always doing what's right.
Mhm.
Um, they speak a certain way, they don't cuss, they don't yell, they don't snap back, they
Mhm.
look a certain way, they carry themselves a certain way. Um, you know, Again, they're dependable, they're responsible, they carry the load of other
Mhm.
people. Um, there's just high standards and high expectations.
Mhm.
It's typically what I think about when I think of the good girl.
Yeah, someone just said modest as well. And that reminds me of a post that I saw earlier. I don't know how people, I've been seeing people post pictures, so I don't know how to show y'all that. But
Hmm.
I saw that, okay, let me not. Girl, what have I done to myself? I'm all super filtered right now.
Yeah,
No,
you do look
ma'am.
filtered.
Let me
I don't
get my
know.
greasy self back. Right. So a friend of mine, and you guys can see this if you go to my page. So she posted a picture of herself at the beach, and she was dressed like people might be dressed at a beach,
Hmm.
meaning that she had on a swimsuit because she
Hmm.
was going to be in the water in the sand and it's in the 90s.
Right.
Well, what happened was she got a lot of negative comments behind it. Now, when I tell you this suit, and I told her, and I said, I don't mean this in a bad way because it's not a bad thing, but the swimsuit that she had on looks like the type of swimsuit that swimmers, athletic swimmers, compete in. That's how basic it was. It was a
Hmm.
basic black swimsuit. it did have like a V-neck, but it was basic. The sides are not out. The butt is completely covered. It's not even one of those high kind with the cheeks out. None of that. And people were saying things like, I thought you were a Christian. This is salacious. Why would you post that? My daughter looks up to you. Oh, look at this, another church girl trying to get attention. These were the types of comments that were made, and that she should have dressed more modest. And I thought, wow, good girls have to overthink what they wear. Yeah, Tiana.
This is the thing. Like I saw the post that you shared, and I don't know if there was more than one picture. The picture I saw, she was sitting down, and you pretty much saw a piece of leg, and I didn't even see the bottom of the bathing suit. Whatever, you know. This is the thing. Yeah, and I don't know how old your friend is, but I have to think back to, I think unfortunately when we are younger, people feel like they can say things to us that they perhaps wouldn't say to us if we were older. Meaning that I'm remembering back when I was, you know, in my 20s or whatever, and people try to make their hangups and issues my issue. Okay, so I have been categorized as that good girl, and there's been certain expectations externally, and I would say there's an internal pressure as well. But I remember distinctly, specifically in the church.
Come on.
I used to work on the TV ministry. Okay, so I actually worked camera. And there was a time that I was working camera. I had on slacks. I had on a top that was not fitted, but it had, you know, it was sleeveless. Okay. One of the ministers went and spoke to one of the directors or whatever and said, you need to tell that girl to cover her arms. And they came up and told me, now, arms, honey, arms. If you are so lust-filled that you can't see a woman's arms without having some type of reaction, that is not my problem. That is yours, which is what I told the gentleman that came up to try to tell me to put on a jacket. I was offended, okay? I did not feel like, I feel like this is the other part of the good girl thing. Sometimes there's the good girls that, you know, you kind of feel the pressure of what other people are trying to put on you, in terms of their expectations, their standards, etc. But then there are the good girls that they know they're a good girl and they're not going to accept your infiltration or your pressure on their lives. Because first of all, we got enough of our own. Okay, you know, so for me, I was like, he was out of pocket. I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong, and I was verbal about it. And that kind of stuck with me, that you should have kept that. You, first of all, I feel like the other guy should have checked him and said, you know, I mean, checked whatever and said, you know, she's fine. But instead, he brought that to me, which means that now I have to address it, you know? So you would have those people that are trolling for appropriate attire or whatever. And I think I said to you, I wish somebody would make a comment on anything that I am not necessarily a modest you know, if I feel fine about it, I feel like that's good enough. I mean, you know, sometimes my mama is like, you know, can you, yeah. And I'm like, it's fine. Bye, mama.
It's so interesting. I had a, you know, I did this poll where I posted the picture. And by the way, Shawnee, who's actually on here tonight, is a whole grown woman. Like she's almost 40. She's not like almost 40, but she'll be 40 in a few years. You know, like she's super grown. She's not here because school closed and all the college kids came home. Like this is a whole grown woman. Tiana said, I wish you would.
That's
It's
what I'm
interesting.
saying.
I had this really interesting comment that someone said in response to what you said. She said, we have been fed and have even internalized the sexualization of our very existence. And it's like you
Mm.
said, if someone feels like your shoulder caps are out, if that's finna make you mess your pants up, you have a deeper issue. Do you hear me?
Exactly.
I remember I had this birthday party, y'all. Thank you for the hearts. And it was 90s themed. Do you remember that,
Mhm.
Maisha? I think you may have been there or
No, I
you
missed it.
invited.
I had a conflict, but I do
Oh,
remember when you
okay.
had that. Yeah.
Okay. Maisha's my real life sister, y'all. So I'm
Hmm.
glad that y'all get to meet her. And
Hmm.
so I had this party and it was 90s themed. So people were dressed 90s style. So people had on like Adidas tracksuits and
Hmm.
some of the girls had on like the Candy Girl type of look. And I also
Hmm.
remember that a couple of people had like the around the way girl type of look. So
Uh-huh.
Deanna was there. She had on a black leather mini skirt with the little, ponytail to the side. And
Uh-huh.
so, um, for people who may not be familiar, Around the Way Girl was this song by LL Cool J in the 90s where he said something along the lines of standing on the bus stop, sucking on a lollipop. And he
Yeah,
also
yeah.
described her as having bamboo earrings, at least two pair. So, one of my friends, I see some hearts. Y'all know, let's give
Yeah.
it up from around the world. So, one of my friends was there. She had on the bamboo earrings and she
Hmm.
had a lollipop. The lollipop was kind of like a prop, although I had like a candy bar, but she kind of was using it as a prop. So
Hmm.
we decided to take some picture. Thank you, Van Monroe. We decided to take some pictures. Literally, y'all. We're doing the 90s poses. You got to pop that hip. And so she
Yeah.
had the lollipop. Kid you not. She's fully clothed. She holding the lollipop like this. Do you hear me? Like this. Not in her mouth, not licking the tip, holding the blow pop. Honey,
Oh.
she had the church folks in her DMs just like Shawnee did. And one of the ministers told her that that was inappropriate for a woman of God.
Let me tell you something. I know so I know these folks think I'm a straight up heathen by now. Because I have a lot of the church folk on my Facebook page or whatever, but I also have, so this is the thing. I have always been like in my family, you know how you have positioned in your family, your positions,
Yeah.
whatever. And I've always been the goody two shoe in my family. All of my siblings I've always
Okay.
been teased about being the goody two shoe, being the
Yeah, I
square,
remember more about
all this
that.
kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Okay. But what people also know about me is that I think for myself. Okay. So if I feel that it's okay, can't nobody say nothing to me about it. Okay. So
Mhm.
I know that there are a lot of church folks that are on specifically my Facebook page, and that they do not bother sending me messages because I'm very opinionated and and I'm just, I'm like, it is what it is. And it's one of those things where um I feel like that it is inappropriate. What's inappropriate is you putting your issues, your
Right.
hang-ups on someone else. Because again, if a person already has the good girl mentality, and we talking about within the church, because it is a lot of this, that if you were
Mhm.
brought up in the church, this is something that you have dealt with.
Yeah.
You've dealt with it on one hand or the other, being not good enough, meaning that you coming in the door with, like, especially those of us. I remember there was a young lady that came to our church for the first time, and she was fresh off of, she ain't been, like, she had just freshly gotten saved and she was grown, so she been living her life a certain way. When you are in that mind space, there's certain things, you're not churchy. Okay. So she came in there, she had a little bit of stomach showing, and she had some fitted pants on, but she was excited and she was jumping up in praise and worship, and she was doing a little jiggling. Girl, I thought these women,
Enjoy.
and I'm like, it was so hilarious to me. And I was praying that no one said anything to her, because they could have sent her scurrying. You know what I mean? Because I know how people are, but I saw them looking like, like, oh my gosh, like, doesn't she? It's like everybody, I have spent the last several years trying to de-religicize myself.
Mm.
I really have. And so I literally do not care what people think. I do not care.
That
If I
is
want to wear
freedom.
it, I'm going to wear it. If I want to say it, I'm going to say it. That's just what it is. So I
It
just
took
feel
you a
like that,
minute to get
huh?
there. But it took you a minute to get there. And that is the problem, because there are a lot of folks who are still in that space. There's some yes girls. Amen. Same. I agree that we're hearing right here. But that took a minute to get here. And I like what you said about, why don't you trust the person? So, for example, we started out talking about my friend in the swimsuit posting that picture. It's like, if you trust this person, you know this person's character, why would you then assume that because she's at the beach, or because you're back out, or because you decided, let's say it's a life choice, you decide, you know what? I'm not going to look for another job, or I'm going to leave this job. I'm going to start my own business. Why
Mm-hmm.
not just trust the God in the person, trust that person's character, and not good girl them literally to death? I want to know more about, because you said that you have been the good girl. So what did that look like in relationships? So with dating as an adult, not even necessarily college and stuff, but what did
Mm-hmm.
that mean for you getting into relationships as the good girl?
Well, first of all, from the door, like, a man can smell a good girl from a mile away, and that can attract or repel him. Okay, depending on the man. Okay, if it's a man who's a dog and he just want to kind of play, then he's probably going to be repelled, which is good. Okay, we want that. But then there's some that they are so curious about the good girl that they gonna try it. Okay. And some good girls get caught up with dudes like that if they're not wise. For me, I have had to kind of balance, like, I will keep somebody in a friend zone until further notice. For a long I will keep them in the friend zone, because I know that there's certain things that come with this package. So for me, let's just go on and get on into it. I'm celibate. Okay. I was married. I'm not anymore. I was one of those that I stayed a virgin until I got married. Okay. Now, because I was raised in the church, and my good girlness started a long, long time ago. So I made a decision a long time ago that, if I want this type of life, this is what's being presented to me. If I want this type of life, then goodness is attached to this. Whatever goodness is, quote, quote.
Whatever, right. Whatever
Yes,
goodness is, part of
yes,
it is you keep your legs closed tight.
yes, yes.
Yes.
So I was like, if I can just make it. And it was hard. It was a hard ride. I was not the 5-year-old version. Let's put it like that. I was shaky leg, barely by the skin of my teeth version, keeping it real. Shoot. But I was like, hey, this is what I'm going to do, which that meant that dating for me was interesting. Okay. And so that was like a line, the good girl line, but I had my eyes on the prize. I had my eyes on the good girl prize, right?
And the
So
good girl's prize is what?
in that case, Oh yeah, of course, of course. You
It's
getting
like
married, all
being
the stuff.
celibate. It's almost like, and I was talking to a friend of mine about this too. There's this erroneous thinking, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
that somehow being abstinent or being celibate, because that's what good girls do, right? I mean, it's now I'm talking about it as an act, not as
Yeah,
the commitment, because there's a
yeah.
difference with that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just doing it as an act, and there is no commitment attached to it, no commitment to your relationship with Christ or whatever it is doing it as an act, but then you're thinking that the reward is marriage or somehow that's supposed to be the prize. That's not, God does not owe you a husband
Mm.
because you are not having sex. That's like
Yeah,
saying, okay, I didn't spend any money this week. Somebody should give me something for that. Or I didn't eat meat. Somebody should give me something for that. I
yeah,
didn't smoke weed this week. Somebody should give me something for that. Like, no,
yeah.
those are things that you're just doing. Like, what's really behind it? And the girl mentality, like you said, apart from wisdom, will have
Mhm.
you doing these things that are really having you bound.
Yes. And this is the thing. It does have you, but it's a subconscious thing, and it sneaks up on you, and especially if you lived your life this way. See, this is the thing.
Mhm.
If you're in your mind, this is the golden carrot, and you feel that, well, I've done all this. I've lived the good girl life. I
Mhm.
deserve this to happen at the end of the rainbow. I deserve that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Now, what happens if, when it does not, there is no gold in the pot at the end of the rainbow? What happens then? And this is what we discover. And that's why you end up getting a lot of bitter, hurt, angry, and women that decide to start wilding out. Okay. Because they feel like, I did this, I lived the good girl life, I did everything right. I did
Right. I went
everything
to
right.
school. I got a degree, especially
Yes,
Black women. You know, I'm
yes,
supposed to be better. I have to work harder than everybody else. So I was the
yes.
smartest. I was in the top percentage. I got the degrees. I got the job. I rose in my career. I even stayed at my good job, even though I hated it. You
Mhm,
know, I did
mhm,
this. I went back to school, got more degrees. Where is
mhm.
my gold in the pot? And then it's just, mud in the
Yeah,
pot.
right. Exactly. And it's so true that, that was I had to have an aha moment where, when I ended up going through my divorce, that I was like, wait a minute, this is not supposed to happen to me. I did everything right. I
Mm.
did, I lived a certain way. Now, mind you, that it doesn't mean that I to totally completely change how I'm living, because again, it's based on your motivation. My my the a number of the actions and the ways that I was living my life was based on this right here, not about anybody else. But it does still leave you feeling some type of way if you even subconsciously have in your mind, I deserve this as a result of. It's just like the whole idea of, why does bad things happen to good people? This person is such a good person. Why them? Why did they get sick? Why did they get in an accident? Why did they lose their job or their business or whatever? They're such a good person. Well, the sunshine and the rain falls on us all. Doesn't matter how good you are. That is like the price of living in this world. And I think when you really understand that, then you can release yourself from all of the pressure, and you can really truly live your most authentic life.
I
That's
love
how I
that.
feel. Yeah.
It reminds me, and there have been so many great comments. Thank you all for continuing this conversation in the comments. I remember, Maisha, being a young woman, not feeling good about myself and the way that I looked,
Mhm.
and there were certain people though that I admired for their beauty and
Mm,
wondered what must it feel like to be beautiful like that. Halle Berry was
mm,
one of those people for me. And
mm,
one day I was watching her on the Oprah show, and she, in tears, was talking about how she had been plotting to take her life. And she told
wow.
the story. Some of you might remember that show or you've seen old clips of it. And she's telling the story about all of these just terrible relationships that she had been in and how men had cheated on her, betrayed her, even beat her. And I was
Mm,
watching this girl, mind blown, because that's not
mhm,
supposed to happen to Halle Berry. That's
mhm.
not supposed to
But why
happen to,
though? Why?
because she's pretty and she has
Mm,
money. Like,
mm,
and then that's when I saw like this whole, and she's good,
mm,
you know?
mm, mhm.
So you're so
I heard
right.
she was
Like
crazy. I don't know. I heard she was crazy. I don't know.
either way though, it's like that idea that you said, like people think bad things shouldn't happen to good people. You know,
Yes.
like it's that whole
Yes.
that's not supposed to happen to me. Why is this happen to me? So you talked about how you did everything and now here you are signing divorce papers. Do you think
Mhm.
that you started to have this awakening towards the end of your divorce, or do you think was it more after your divorce where you started to like take that good girl veil off? How did it work for you?
Um, I would say it was actually more so during the separation. I was separated for like 2 years. Okay.
Mm. Hmm.
So I think once, because I'm not the type of person to do anything lightly. Okay. So I when I knew within myself that I was going to have to separate from him, I started I started questioning everything, including my mindset. How did I end up in this space? Some ain't adding up. Okay.
Do you think that good girls let things slide or go longer? Was some of your good girlness impacting your decisions even in that relationship?
I don't, I wouldn't say it was directly related to the good girlness. It was more related to the way that I love. You know,
Mm.
the way that I love will take me to the edge of the ledge, but then I'm not going over the edge of the ledge. You will go over there by yourself. I'm not going over the edge of the ledge. I'll go to
I'll
the
go
edge.
over there. Okay, I'll go over there, but
Yeah, I'm not tipping over. And so for me, that's what that was about. So, but I I started questioning everything, including my mindset. Like that's where I go into self-analyzation. I go into, like what were my steps? You know what I mean? What mindsets brought me along this path? And I had, years of discovery, because ain't nobody trying to go down that route again. We ain't trying to go down that road again. So I really needed to do a lot of healing from that. But I realized that some of it, and this is another factor that I don't want to forget to bring up, that there are a lot of things that develop our personality and this whole good girl, this tendency towards the good girl stuff, um, can sometimes come out of trauma. So for me, I had to go all the way back where my parents got divorced when I was 4. Okay. So there was something that happened during that time where I decided that maybe goodness is the reason why this did or did not happen. Because if you know, and especially as a teacher, you probably know that children internalize a lot of things that has nothing to do with them. It has to do with the adults around them. But they don't understand that. So they say, well, maybe I wasn't good enough. That's
Mhm.
why this happened. Why? So maybe if I can be good, then I can avoid certain things. I can make mommy happy. I can make daddy happy. I can, have this, whatever. If I can only do these things, then I can have this type of life. And I thought that way for years, years and years and years. That's what I thought. All I have to do is this, and it will equal the life I want, the good life. And when that did not happen, I had to start asking myself a lot of questions, and I had to change things. Now, the other thing too is I will say that I don't consider, other people will say that I'm a good girl, I'm a goody two shoe, but then there will be other people who say that I am not a traditional, like for instance, when I was a virgin, there was people that were saying I wasn't. And I'm talking about I was the 5-year-old variety at that time. Like I was untouched. And folks was acting like
people can't believe that. It's like almost unbelievable. I remember, because I think you know this about me, is that I don't watch a lot of television. So when I do see something, it's fascinating to me that these things are happening in real life. So I saw whatever the show is where the people meet and then get married.
Oh, is it Marriage at First Sight or something like that? Marriage at First Sight.
Like that. Yeah. And there was a girl on there, black girl, who was a virgin, and she constantly talked about how she was a virgin too. Every
I'm
episode.
sorry, she was annoying. I have to be honest, she was annoying. But go ahead. With that part, she was annoying. Like her enjoying all that. Go ahead.
Right. I was like, wow, so much of her identity is in this thing, and people don't always, and this is not my original quote, I got this from Dr. Bill Winston. He says, you don't see things as they are, you see things as you are. So people weren't able to receive or get, like, she lying, please, girl, okay, that you, when you were actual virgin, because that didn't make sense to them.
Yeah.
Especially, and you are not dry and raggedy, you know what I mean? You're beautiful and vibrant. So
that's the thing. I didn't fit the image of what in their mind a virgin, especially when you get, in your 20s or whatever the case may be, that I didn't fit the image. I wasn't, mousy or reserved. I wasn't afraid to talk to men. You know what I mean? Like whatever their image of virgin was, to the point that talking about messiness in the church, and this is what I'm saying, we really need to deal with this foolishness, okay? Because I remember when I did become engaged, there were people in the church that was talking to my fiance, telling him that I was not a virgin. Now, how they would even know that? They didn't even know me like that. First of all, it was
to tell somebody.
Thank you. And to have, I was like, when it was brought to my attention, first of all, I wasn't fazed because I know me and I don't care what anybody else says, and he knew me too. So the thing about it is, I was like, why? Ask yourself, why is that even a point of conversation? Why are y'all up in here talking about whether somebody is or isn't? But again, the way that whatever their image of a virgin of my age or whatever, I did not fit that bill, so they didn't believe it. And again, that's not my problem. That is your problem. And I don't have to prove anything to anybody. You know what I mean? So that I've always kind of had that mindset. I mean, I've always had that mindset. I don't have to prove anything to anybody, but I did have an internal pressure to kind of always do the right thing, stay the course. I wanted that golden carrot. So I was, and I'm not just talking about in terms of relationship. I'm talking about life, period. I want a certain type of life. I want a certain amount of money. I want a certain, I want a certain amount of, passion and success and all of that. It's in every area. I always had this type of internal pressure that is less about other people because I didn't care what they thought. It was more so me against me, if that makes sense.
Hmm. I think it is a blessing that you are not someone that is going to um, bend under the pressure of the whole good girlness, because for some people that does happen. There are women who are in abusive relationships, whether that is mentally, verbally, emotionally abusive relationships, even some physically, where
Mhm.
they are torn between if they should get out or not, because
Mhm.
they have a good life, they have a good husband. I follow Winter Harris. I absolutely adore her. She just recently got married, and she was
Mhm.
telling the story about a past relationship with her first husband, and how people made her feel so bad for leaving that relationship because she was a baller's wife. He was an NFL player, but he also was cheating on her and doing all this
Mhm.
kind of stuff. And she
Mhm.
now here she is struggling after she separated from him. And she was staying with this lady, an older lady from the
Mhm.
church. And the lady said to her, trying to comfort her, I guess,
Mhm.
um, well, baby, you wouldn't be going through this if you would just go back to your husband. You could just go back. Like, and so she had
Wow.
to really push past not doing the right thing, with her being the one to just, accept that and be a good wife. Because there's also the whole good, good
Yeah.
wife thing, good daughter thing, whatever. Some
Yeah.
people have
Mhm.
crazy relationships with people in their family, and it could be their parents or something. And it's almost like this expectation that if you're a good girl, then you will let that slide. You can take that. You can have grace. Jesus says to forgive. Like, okay, yeah, but that doesn't mean
Yeah.
you get to do any and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. It's really sad when people do that and say that to someone in a situation where it's not like she's just saying, I don't like him no more. He get on my nerves. No, this man is he has broken the vows. He's broken commitment. You know what I mean? And to encourage someone to stay in a situation like that because, okay, what, it's hard to break up. So, do you want to? This is the thing. I feel like that the pressures that people put on the things that women accept in
Mhm.
relationships, especially, and I hate to keep saying that, I'm not church bashing at all. Please, I hope it doesn't come off
Mhm.
like that. But
Right. Well, we
when that,
for
yeah,
real love God over here.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So it's not church bashing, but the thing is that sometimes we have expectations that people should, we interpret scripture. We
Mhm.
try to make people or beat people over the head with the Bible to accept things that they should not be accepting in the name of forgiveness, in the name of, you made a commitment or whatever the case may be. Okay, you can forgive and love from afar. Because when someone has, in this case, like with a marriage or something like that, where the vows have been broken, there's been legitimate infractions, then no. I don't care what anybody, I actually went through that. I was being beat over the head with the Bible with all of the reasons why I shouldn't leave my husband. And I was like, I don't care what scripture you show me. I know that my heavenly father would not want me to stay in this. If my earthly father, you know what I mean? Like if my earthly
Right.
father would not want me in this situation, how much more so with God? So I
Right.
don't care what scripture you try to whip out on me and beat me over the head or try to whatever. No, I am not within myself. And this is why I really advocate for people thinking for themselves and don't just get into this kind of over spiritualization of things where you can now be manipulated. I know pastors' wives that have stayed in relationships with their husbands who have ongoing cheating issues. This is not like a oops. This is an ongoing pattern, and stayed for years because what, the expectation, the scandal of it all, or whatever, and sometimes those are the things that it's like you need to love yourself better. And I think when it comes down to it, with all of this stuff, with the good girl syndrome and all of that stuff, you need to make sure that all of the goodness that you're walking in is out of a place of self-love as well. It shouldn't be about nobody else but you and God at the end of the day when it comes to how you move in the world. That's just, yeah.
Girl, yes, that is so good. I
Mhm.
had intended to ask you, what would you say to women who feel like they are stuck in the confines of the whole good girlness as it relates to their relationships and decision making? And everything you just said there is how to get free. I am Tatum's B says men can sin and it's a whoops, but women don't have so much leniency. And someone
Mm.
else had posted something that said, you know, this husband was allowed to not be good to her, but then she's expected to be good. I'm going to take out that clip and make that a clip so you guys can go back, and me too, and meditate on that. I want us to wrap this up by saying, by asking this last thing for you to elaborate on something you said to me earlier. You said that you feel like good girlness, when you're in the throes of it yourself, this is before you wake up, actually has a
Mhm.
tinge of self-righteousness to it. And I think it's important to put that next to what you just said about how anything good that you're doing should come from a place of love. So
Mhm.
expand on that a little bit more, and then we'll be heading out soon.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I that was a aha moment for me. And
Mhm.
it's really attached to motives and expectation. So you can get into this vein of, well, I do everything right. I make the right decisions, I wear the right things, I speak the right words, I do all of this, I. And so therefore, I am good, I am right. And you kind of can get into, and again, you may not say this verbally, but it's a mindset, and it's a sneaky mindset when you are in this goodness flow of, you know, you're just the whole vein of you, quote, doing everything right. You start feeling a bit superior when you're interacting with maybe someone who isn't making all the quote right decisions, or they're bumping their heads, or they're, just not making the choices that you are making. You can start subconsciously to get a little where you are looking down on them, like you're better because you're the good girl, or you're the one that's on the straight and narrow. And it's a very, again, it's just like pride. It's kin to pride. It's a kissing cousin to pride, really. And it's a subtle thing. I've heard people that are like, for instance, if they're living like a celibate life, or they're, a virgin, and they're, older than typical virgins or whatever, and that they feel like, well, I know I better get a fine husband because I'm doing all this. You're not guaranteed a fine husband just because you're holding your virginity. You're not guaranteed anything just because you keeping your
Right.
legs
And
closed.
live with
So
that nasty attitude. Don't nobody want to be bothered with you. As Cynthia said, good and miserable. Okay.
exactly. Exactly. It's not, I think that it's, I know, I just feel so much more freedom with me taking pressure off of myself. But because remember, I haven't been the type of good girl that I've never been one about the peer pressure. I've never been, it's always been an internal, I want this, so I gotta do this. I was always trying to be in control. And that still is an issue for me. I have to say, our old habits die hard, okay? I do have an issue with trying to control things, because I want a certain type of life. I want a certain type of outcome. But the more I free myself of all of that, life is good. Life is so much better.
It's liberating to not be in that place. But sometimes, like you said, old habits die hard. Sometimes you have to be really intentional in your thinking. Like, why do I think that this is the right thing? Or why do I think that something's wrong with that? Maybe nothing is wrong with that at all. Maybe it's just
Mhm.
not the same thing I would do. But do
Right.
I need to be thinking, well, I don't know why she would do that. I mean, I would never do that. I just wouldn't say something like that to somebody.
Yeah.
Well, it's not the choice
Yeah.
that was made. But you're saying it like
Mhm.
in such a way, like you said, where the way that you think and move and the way that you do things is the superior way.
Yes.
Maisha, thank you so
Mhm.
much for doing this. I have had fun. It has been like
Awesome.
eye-opening and all that. I really
Mhm.
appreciate you. Is there anything that you're doing that those who are watching and those people who will sit on the replay that we can support you in? Like, what do you have going on that we can like get involved with?
Um, Well, actually, I've started getting into this whole IG Live thing. And so I actually have a
Okay.
current series called It's Personal Being a Black Father and a Black Man and Black Father in America. And so my
Hmm.
next one is tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central Time with
Okay.
Eugene Bush, who is amazing. He's a friend of mine, but we're going to be talking about his experience as a Black man and Black father. And this is my fourth one I've done. And it's been really enlightening conversation. So I invite everybody to come over to the page, my MAI Lady Lessons, and check us out 5 p.m. tomorrow.
All right, and that's Central Time, y'all. So
Central
I will
Time.
share it also in my stories.
Okay.
All right, y'all. Have a good night, a good rest of the week, and I'll
Yes.
call you in just a bit, Maisha.
Okay. Sounds good. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.